When you hear my voice, you know what time it is. It's baseball time here on the Walkoff. I'm Anthony Walsh. Vincent Picorn will be joining us a little bit later in the show. But today I have a frequent guest of the show. I think I could call you frequent because you've been here enough. I have Justin Randell. It's the Met fan show today. That's always fun. We're going to be talking a lot of Mets. Mr. Randell, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well, Anthony. Thank you for having me on. Hopefully, I'll be here more often now that schedules are playing in my favor, because I remember in the past my schedule didn't work out for me to come on the show with you guys. But this time around, I think I'll hopefully be here more often. So getting ready to get rolling here and talk some baseball.
It's always good to have another Met fan in the group to go after the Phillies fan. I will say that. But we actually had somewhat of a busy week in the offseason, which is always good. We usually complain about not much going on. In this case, we have a good amount going on. And it started right after our show last week, about the day afterwards, where Cody Bellinger and the New York Yankees, which I guess was kind of the marriage you kind of always knew was going to come together again. He signed a 5-year deal. It was the deal that the Yankees originally wanted him to sign. It was also the deal that Scott Boras said, no, I don't want that deal. I want my 7-year deal, which nobody in Major League Baseball wanted to touch. And like everybody was saying, including this show, Cody Bellinger is going to sit out there until he eventually caves to this contract that the Yankees offer, or some other team gives at least a little bit more. Turned out that the Yankees were the only team that seemingly was interested in him at this price, and he goes right back to the Yankees. I'll give you my quick take on it, and then I'm interested to hear your take on it, Justin. Honestly, I didn't see any scenario where this didn't work out. I've talked about this with Vincent in the last show, where Aaron Judge has virtually no protection in that lineup. Virtually none. And Cody Bellinger is probably about the only thing in that lineup that is guaranteed protection. And I'll even fight against that a little bit, because he had a great year last year. He hasn't had a great career. He had a great rookie season, faded away with the Dodgers. He was okay with the Chicago Cubs, especially that last year there, started to show some signs, which was the reason the Yankees gave a chance on him last year. And then he had the year of his career last year. But he's not a sure thing. Like, the contract that he wanted and the contract that Scott Boras wanted was a contract that you give to a Soto type. It was a contract that, you give to a Kyle Tucker type. Obviously not to that extent, but still, you give it to the type of player that's a guaranteed star. And Cody Bellinger's not that yet. If I'm a Yankee fan, I'm happy he's back in the lineup, but I'm also saying, okay, are we going to just run it back with the same old team that we've had year after year? Because it seems like that's what they're doing.
It definitely is. I mean, they have not added any new pieces to their lineup this offseason. The only guy they got back was Bellinger. So it's practically the same exact lineup they had last season, and we all know how it played out. They got bounced by the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALDS last season. So obviously it's just it wasn't a productive season for them. So I'm surprised that Brian Cashman really didn't go out and explore other options to improve this lineup this season, rather than bringing back a guy who, to your point, Anthony, had a great season. Obviously Yankees fans are happy to have him back, but the fact that Cashman really didn't go out and try to improve the lineup even more because of how bad they were last season, to their standards, was just very surprising. But going back to your point, though, about the contract, we remember at the beginning of the offseason, he was really commanding a 7-year deal. And as the offseason went on, there was some hints that, hey, he might get that 7-year deal. But once other teams were starting to fill that outfield void, there was less and less teams that were going in on Bellinger. For the last month, it was really between the Mets and the Yankees. But as soon as the Mets went out and got Luis Robert Jr., that pretty much took the Mets out of the running. So it was almost inevitable for Cody Bellinger to go back to the Yankees. And, obviously, Anthony, with him being 30 years old, it would have been very hard to give him a 7-year deal. That would take him to past his age 37 season. So the fact that he even got 5 years is pretty good, if you ask me, because it gives him stability. He knows he's going to be in the Bronx for the next 5 years, and there's nothing to really worry about. But like I said before, the Yankees, they really didn't improve their lineup. They just have the exact same team.
And you mentioned about your surprise that the Yankees didn't go outside the organization to try and improve this lineup. I understand what you're saying, but I can't say I'm all that surprised. I mean, the Yankees are not a team that has gone after major free agents in recent history. They let Soto go. That's the big story. But you look throughout that lineup, it's a lot of either homegrown talent or talent that they got years ago. I mean, Giancarlo Stanton is not some big recent acquisition. They got him years ago at this point. And, I'm staring at the Yankee lineup in front of me, and I mentioned how Judge doesn't have much protection. Even with Bellinger, he doesn't have a lot of protection. I mean, you have Trent Grisham, which every Yankee fan out there is very upset about, that he even accepted that qualifying offer. Well, Brian Cashman, played with fire and gave him the qualifying offer, and it didn't work out. Well, shocker, he took the $20+ million that he was never going to get elsewhere and is cashing in on a great year. So kudos to him, but you have him batting leadoff, and he's the guy that's a career, 240 hitter. And then you have Aaron Judge, obviously great hitter. Bellinger's protection for him, that's great. But then you go down to Ben Rice, which I don't have a problem with Ben Rice, but he can't be anywhere near being close to protection for Aaron Judge or Cody Bellinger. Then to Stanton, who's barely going to play 100 games, if that. Then to Chisholm, who's a good player, but still not that caliber. Then to McMahon, and it goes down from there. This Yankee lineup, as of right now, cannot play with the big boys in the American League and cannot play with the big boys in their division. The Toronto Blue Jays not only outseeded everybody's expectations, including my own, last year, they've had a very active offseason. And I know we're happy about Bo Bichette being a Met. I'm certainly happy, but just putting on the Yankee fan, the imaginary Yankee fan cap for a second, how do you not go after Bo Bichette more? How are you Brian Cashman? How are you the New York Yankees? And you allow, first of all, the Mets to get in on it, but even more importantly, the Toronto Blue Jays, who almost had him. So how do you allow, obviously, your division rival there and then your crosstown rival with the Mets to be pursuing this guy when you make zero effort to do so? I mean, you add Bichette to this lineup plus Bellinger to this lineup, which crazy thought, I know. How about the Yankees spend some money, the most profitable franchise in sports? You add those two guys to this lineup, it's a drastically different lineup. And the way I'm seeing it right now, it's a wild card team at best. I don't see this team competing for the division whatsoever. Now, you get Cole back, maybe things change. But this lineup is not a good lineup. It's just not.
On paper right now, I mean, I hate to say it to Yankees fans, but this is a fourth place team.
Really?
This is a fourth place team. I 100% firmly believe right now that it's a toss up between the 1 seed for Toronto and Baltimore, in my opinion, with Boston, I think, finishing in the third place spot because they pivoted well after they lost Bregman. They went out and got Ranger Suarez to help with that rotation as well. They have a bunch of young prospects that they're going to incorporate into their lineup, so they're in good shape. But I 100% believe that the Baltimore Orioles, they really improved. They got Taylor Ward, they got Pete Alonso in the offseason. Like, all these teams in the AL East are improving drastically. They're going out and spending the big bucks to improve their lineups other than Tampa Bay. So right now, with what the Yankees are doing right now, they're just banking on everyone staying healthy this season and having a chance at finishing at the top of the AL East. But right now on paper, I honestly firmly believe they are in a 3-4 spot right now.
How many wins?
Well, if you got to figure, if I'm thinking to Baltimore and Toronto at the top, they're going to have at least between 90 to 95 wins, if I had to guess.
You think Baltimore's going to be at that range?
Like, Baltimore between 85 to 90. I think Toronto is more 90 to 95.
So you think Baltimore's going to finish above Boston?
I think so. Yes.
Really?
Yes. I firmly do.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I do.
Why?
I really like their lineup this season. I mean, you got Gunnar Henderson, who was pretty much injured all of last season. He came back and he still put up productive numbers. You're seeing Jackson Holliday showing a lot of signs of improving as a young player. You go out and now you get your first baseman of the future in Pete Alonso, who was just absolutely unbelievable this season. You get Taylor Ward, had over 100 RBIs this season on an Angels team that obviously didn't have a lot of offense, but he still produced very well. You have a young catcher in Samuel Basallo, who's going to be playing pretty much every day. Adley Rutschman's going to be splitting time with him as well. I really am a fan of their lineup this season. I don't, they have Colton Cowser as well. They have Mountcastle off the bench. Like, I just love their lineup in general. So if I had to guess, I would say they're probably around like the 80 to 90 range, and I would give Toronto 90 to 95 wins. Boston, same thing, like 80 to 85. Yankees
aren't in the 80 to 85 win range.
I mean, the way I'm looking at it right now, I don't know. It's so competitive in that division that it's really hard to like pick a team that's like the solidified number one team in that division. There are so many good teams in that division that it's hard to play out. But just based off what the other teams have done in the offseason in that division compared to what the Yankees have done, I think those other teams have drastically improved from where they were last year compared to what the Yankees are going to be this year.
I'm not saying that it's a crazy take, but I will say I think you're giving too little credit to Boston. I think Boston is a team that's significantly on the rise. And I don't think the Orioles are on a decline whatsoever. But I think that Boston has better young talent. I think Roman Anthony's going to be a star in this league.
100%.
And Roman Anthony got a cup of coffee at the big league level this past year. But, if all goes well and he stays healthy, which I guess is somewhat of a question now, but still he's 21 years old, so I can't put the injury risk on him yet. If he stays healthy, this kid's going to be one of the best players in baseball. And you still have him on a rookie deal where you're not paying him some crazy contract. So you could go out there and you can actually spend on this team like you should at the trade deadline. Now, whether or not they actually will do that is a totally another discussion, but they have been active in free agency. Ranger Suarez is an underrated pickup. He sat out there for a long time, but I like Ranger Suarez better than Framber Valdez. And I've gone over it a billion times on the show about Valdez, the issues with his catcher and all that. I just think Ranger Suarez, especially in the big game, we've seen him in the big games before at the Phillies time after time, and the guy puts up. The guy puts up good numbers. And I think adding him to that, Crochet, obviously at the top of the rotation, who is one of the best pitchers in baseball, this is a good team. And you go down that lineup, and I just did it with the Yankees. I want to be fair to both teams and give you the lineup and just, let the listener think for what they want to think. But for the Red Sox, Roman Anthony, Trevor Story, Jarren Duran, Contreras, Wilyer Abreu, Carlos Narvaez, Marcelo Mayer, Rony Gonzalez, and then Sadan Rafael. Now, I know the last 4 or 5, it goes downhill a little bit. But I will give you an argument that Marcelo Mayer is probably going to be a lot better than he's been in his career so far. There's been a little bit of a worry. Well, what are we going to do at third base? I'm not sure, but I've talked about it with Vincent. Maybe you let Marcelo Mayer, give him half the year. Give him to the trade deadline. See what he has. This kid was one of your top prospects in not only in the Red Sox organization in Major League Baseball, and he's still, 23 years old. He has all the talent in the world to improve. Combine that with his pitching staff where, okay, Sonny Gray isn't what he was, but he's still a productive pitcher. Suarez is a good pitcher.
He's a good number 3.
Yeah, he's a very good number. You're not asking much out of him.
No.
And that's the thing with Sonny Gray is he's been asked a lot out of the recent Sonny Gray has been asked to be a top end of the rotation guy.
Well, look at the team he was on. He was on St. Louis.
Exactly.
Miles Michaelis, Matthew Liberatore. I mean, you're not leaning on those guys
right.
to be your number 1 option.
And if you're asking somebody who's not that to be that, it's not going to work out.
Right.
But if you ask Sonny Gray to be a number 3 guy, maybe a potential number 4 guy if Brian Bayo really has a great year, he could be that 100%. He could be around a 4 ERA, high 3 ERA, and be consistent, give you 30 starts. Why can't Sonny Gray be that? And if you combine that with maybe your oldest Chapman gives you another great season. Now, I'm not so confident in that, but he was great last year. If you combine that and the stars align and you have that young talent really producing, by the way, you have a great trade deadline, I don't see any reason why not. And the Yankees aren't giving them that much to compete with. The Toronto Blue Jays are, the Orioles are to a certain extent. But to me, you mentioned during when you were talking earlier, what team in this division is the team to beat. It's kind of hard to think about. I don't think it's hard to think about. I think it's the Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. Until they prove different to me, it's the Toronto Blue Jays. They, like I said, proved me wrong. And they've done nothing this offseason to make me think otherwise. Now, if you want to say Bichette leaving, okay, you could talk about that. But this team is still just as good as it was.
They didn't make improvements. I mean, they got Dylan Cease.
Right.
They got I forget his name. They got the Japanese guy. Not Murakami. He's in the White Sox. It was the other one.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, they improved. I agree with you. Do you think it's more of like a toss up of like who's going to finish like in the middle part of that division? Like you say it's solidified Toronto's going to win the division, which in all likelihood,
as of right now, yeah,
it probably will be.
Things could change, but yeah,
I would agree with you. But like I said, I mean, I think it's going to be closer than what people are making it out to be. But as far as like what I was saying before with the other teams in the division, do you think right now, on paper, that the Yankees are the 4th best team in that division?
No, I think they're better than that.
Like a 3?
I think they're going to be. Let's put it this way. I don't think that they're going to be out of contention for the division. I think it's going to be within a few games. They're not going to be. You say 4th place. I don't think, unless they have injuries, which maybe they will.
Well, then I'm glad you brought that
right.
up because the history with Stanton.
100%.
And although Judge is putting up great numbers, there have been times where he's missed a couple of weeks. He's had injuries as well, so you have to take that into account. And who else is on there?
Cole has injuries. Rodon has injuries. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because that is a big part of the Yankees. There have been so many injuries to that team over the last few seasons that it's just kind of hard to go into the season thinking, hey, Garrett Cole's going to make 30 to 35 starts or Giancarlo Stanton's going to play more than 100 games. Like it's hard to know that given the recent injury history. So I'm happy you brought that point up though.
I think it's a good, 100%. But I also think that the Yankees still have a ton of talent on that team. And we saw what Cam Stuttler did in the playoffs last year. And I'm not going to put it on him yet that he's an ace or anything like that. He's not the ace on this team. He doesn't have that pressure put on him for this team. But I think he could be an ace. And I think if Garrett Cole's recovery doesn't go as well as people think it might go, He could be in that ace role, and if he pitches well enough, even regardless of how Cole does, if he pitches well enough, he could be an ace on this team. And I think the Yankees, despite the lineup frustrations that I talked about, they're still a clutch team. They're still a team that when it comes down to, not clutch so much in the playoffs, but they're clutch when it comes to August, September baseball to get to the playoffs. That's kind of been where they've made their money, and then they fall apart in October. But when you're talking about just division-wise, I struggle to think that the Orioles are going to finish ahead of the Yankees. I like the additions they've made, but I think when it comes down to crunch time, when it comes down to we're hitting in July and the trade deadline's about to come here, I honestly cannot see the Orioles being more active than the New York Yankees at the trade deadline. I think that's going to be part of the reason why the Yankees finish better than them.
The reason why, I somewhat agree with you is if it comes down to pitching, then yes, I agree with you. The Orioles, they did not improve in that department whatsoever. They traded away Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward early in the offseason. That I'm not even sure who their technical ace is right now. It's maybe like Kyle Bradish or someone like that.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. Their rotation is not good. So if it comes down to that, then yes, Baltimore is going to be in the bottom part of that division. But if you take into account the lineup wise and hoping that the offensive production overlaps what's going to happen pitching wise, it's hard to really bet against Baltimore because they really do have one of the best lineups, in my opinion, in all of baseball. I think it's very balanced.
Where would you rank them? Top 5?
Not top 5. I'd say between 7 to 10.
That's fair.
I would say 7 to 10. There's lineups that are better for sure. I mean, obviously we know who number 1 is, the Dodgers,
right?
And that's a given. But I would put them in the 7 to 10 range. But like I said, if it comes down to hitting and run production, the Orioles, I think, 100% have the Yankees beat because we've known how many times the Yankees have struggled to score unless Aaron Judge gets that home run. They don't have too many guys on base realistically for Judge to drive in for the most part. So it's so hard to really have faith in the Yankees. I don't know. It's the same exact team as last season. Sure, they finished, I said, in second place. But again, you look at the other teams in the division and what they did this offseason to improve. I think it somewhat changes a little bit.
We can knock that it's the same team as last season. I 100% agree with you. But that team did win over 90 games and was, for normal teams, a successful year. For the Yankees, a horrible year.
Which I agree with you. But like I said before, with all these additions now for the other teams in the division, I think those overlap the Yankees. Because again, last season the Orioles didn't have Pete Alonso. Now they do. They have Taylor Ward. Now they, you know what I mean? They have much better lineup pieces now than they did at the start of last season. They actually went out and improved and made some changes to kind of change the system a little bit because we know how poor the Orioles were last year. So they went out and they were aggressive. Same thing with Boston. Although they didn't really improve their lineup, they improved their pitching. So it's all these different teams are going out and making those improvements while the Yankees are being the exact same. If this was last season and every team in that division didn't make any improvements, then yeah, I would have the Yankees in the 1 to 2 range. But with what these other teams did in the offseason, I think it changes a little bit.
We'll see. It's a good debate, and I at least I'll say this: Yankees fans have no reason to be pumping their chests right now, and I don't think many of them are. I'm not trying to say that they are, but the old Yankee way of 27 World Championships and we're better than you
doesn't apply anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And the Dodgers have taken that over 100%. And I'm not happy in saying that. I don't like either team. I dislike the Dodgers far more now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be interesting to see how it works. Now, moving on to the other side of town, we have our Mets, and obviously we're going to have a nice long segment talking about the Mets because the Phillies fan's not here. And we had a pretty big move on that same day, January 21st, last week. And Justin and I made a reaction video on my Instagram for anybody that saw that. But Freddy Peralta was traded to the New York Mets for Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat. If you're not aware who Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat are, they're two of the Mets' top prospects, top 5, I believe, in the organization. And Freddy Peralta was the Brewers' ace and now is the New York Mets ace. And this is a guy that I talked about last week. I wanted the Mets to go after him. The Mets were heavily connected to him. And it was kind of obvious that the Mets weren't going to go for the free agency route for a starting pitcher. And lo and behold, they did not. And they've given up a lot for a guy that, as of right now, is a 1-year rental. Now, we have plenty more to discuss on that In fact, we have tomorrow, we're interviewing Pat Ragazzo of Sports Illustrated, which will go up on our social channels, the Walkoff on YouTube, the Walkoff on Spotify, and clips will be cut for Instagram and TikTok. But we're going to be talking to him about that because he was heavily involved in the reporting on this for Sports Illustrated. He was the first person to report that Williams was involved in the deal. He's also been one of the few people to report, I think one of the only person to report, that Freddy Peralta is open to an extension with the Mets. I'll say this. I'm very happy about the deal, 100%. But like I just said, as of right now, as we sit here on January 27th, this is a one-year rental. And that worries me because Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat are very talented players. Now, even if they don't turn out to be anything, who knows? That's for the future to decide. You still gave up 2 top 5 prospects for him, and you're still putting a lot of your season on this guy. If Freddy Peralta isn't the Freddy Peralta we know from Milwaukee, this team's not going to go very far. So it's a lot you're putting on one season. And he's only 29 years old. Why not extend him? I'm a little, I wouldn't say annoyed. I'm a little perturbed, if you want to use a fancy word, that they haven't already extended him. Now, I'm letting it go because I think they eventually will. But if you're going to give up this much for a guy that right now doesn't have an extension on the table, what are you doing? Why when we're in that trade talks, why don't we talk to Milwaukee and say, okay, we'll make the deal, but allow us talking rights with Peralta, allow us to make an extension with him, which I'm sure they would have said fine, and let's do it. And I'm guarantee you they could have worked something out. Instead, we're sitting here now where Peralta has time to think, maybe I want to go to free agency, maybe I'll bet on myself for this year, I don't know. And then maybe you're in a situation in next offseason where he's on another team and you gave up 2 top 5 prospects for nothing.
Yeah,
so that's what worries me.
It's a sticky situation. I agree with you. Look, I'm beyond ecstatic to have a guy of his caliber now being the ace of the New York Mets. It's the first ace we've legitimately had since we got rid of Jacob deGrom, when he left in free agency for Texas. So it's good to have that solidified ace, that we've been missing for the past few years here. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, right now it is a 1-year rental. In my opinion, though, I would be shocked if we get to opening day and he doesn't have a deal in place. Not just because of the magnitude of the deal, but also because we know what's going to be happening after this season concludes. There's going to be a lockout. Let's just put it out there. It's pretty much set in stone. There's going to be a lockout because we know there's so many teams in the MLB that are not happy with what the Dodgers are doing. A lot of teams aren't happy with what the Mets have done over over recent time with the amount of money that they're throwing out there. So it's almost inevitable. And with that being in place, it's even more of a reason for Peralta to not bet on himself. Because if you go into the lockout and you're coming off of a bad year, when you come out of it, you're not going to get nearly what you want right now. You're coming off a career season, 17-6 record, under 3 ERA, over 200 strikeouts. If I'm him, I'm trying to get a deal done as soon as possible right now and keep yourself solidified with the Mets for the foreseeable future rather than betting on yourself for one more year, going into the lockout, and who knows what the contracts are going to be like when they come up with a new CBA. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But like I said, I'd be so shocked if the Mets don't get a deal done by opening day. But one thing I do want to point out, though, before I turn it back to you, Anthony, I'm a little annoyed.
Okay.
I'm a little annoyed.
Tell me.
So today, Freddy Peralta, he's going to be introduced by the Mets, 2:00. You want to know how they're introducing Freddy Peralta?
Is it Zoom?
It's on Zoom.
It's on Zoom.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Okay? This guy is going to be your ace for this season, hopefully for the future, and you're introducing him on Zoom? What are we doing? I mean, this is ridiculous.
Not a big Zoom guy?
Not for this guy.
Okay.
No, I'm not at all. Look, I'm happy we introduced Bichette at Citi Field. I love it. Great signing. But you know what the situation with him is? It's essentially a 1-year deal for him as well.
Right.
Because he can opt out right after the season's over. Same thing with Freddy Peralta. Obviously, it's a 1-year deal, but still, if you're going to give Bo Bichette, in a full-on introduction at the field, you got to do the same for Freddy Peralta. You gave up 2 top 5 prospects for a 1-year rental who is a solidified ace, and you're going to introduce him over a tiny little computer screen? That's horrible. How do you feel about that?
I put it this way: give him an extension and go win. I really don't care. But I'll respond to your point about the extension, and I think that yes, the impending lockout has its benefits for the Mets. It might propel him and his agent. I'm sure his agent is in his ear saying, "Look, this is your chance to get a big contract, and we could be sitting here a year from now and it wouldn't be allowed to get as big of a contract as you're going to get because maybe a salary cap will be there." I still don't think there'll be a salary cap necessarily. I think there might be harsher luxury tax penalties. I think it might be sent to a level that I mean, the Dodgers might go past it, but I don't know many other teams that will. They might really, really incentivize you not to spend that much. We're talking about hypotheticals here. But the flip side of that is David Stearns does not want to give out long-term deals. I mean, this is something that's been talked about ad nauseum on sports radio, on sports television, whatever. So everybody, I'm sure, listening knows that this is a guy that doesn't give out contracts longer than 3 years. Maybe a 4-year deal, maybe. But even then, it's very rare. And the only long contract he's given is to Juan Soto, who's a Hall of Famer. So essentially, he's giving out no long-term deals. If Peralta's saying, all right, you know what, I'm trying to get my deal before the lockout, and I think there's going to be a salary cap, so I might as well get my contract grandfathered in, and I'm getting paid no matter what they do. If he says that and goes to David Stearns and says, I want a 6-year, you know what, I want to match Ranger Suarez. I want a 5-year deal for a ton of AAV. I'm better than Ranger Suarez. Why don't I go do that? Let's just say he does that. Is David Stearns going to give him a contract anywhere near Ranger Suarez? He's not. I don't think he will. Now, if you bring that down to shorter years, higher AAV, I could see it. But do you honestly think a 29-year-old Freddy Peralta is going to go down shorter years, higher AAV? Probably not.
Probably won't, but, then again, David Stearns, I mean, he'd be stupid not to. I mean, it's just flat out.
He doesn't, though.
I mean, he extended him once, though, when he was in Milwaukee. He gave Freddy Peralta a big deal, but then again, at that time, he was, I think, around 23, 24.
He wasn't the AC is now, right?
Right, he was young. So that obviously would make more sense. If he didn't do it back then oh boy, then you could almost pencil it in that he's never going to come back. But again, it's so hard to imagine because we know that David Stearns, he doesn't like to give up prospects like that. We've seen him be hesitant in the past. So the fact that you're giving up 2 top 5 prospects for this guy, how could you do that for 1 year, banking on them winning a World Series where basically on paper the Mets aren't the favorites to be the World Series champions to begin with? You gotta go in and make this deal to extend him and make him be a part of the future.
You could also say though, how could you let Edwin Diaz go to your rival Los Angeles Dodgers? But
we didn't. They didn't offer him enough.
So you're letting him go there. That's right.
Look, I mean that I'm not happy about it. We both feel the same way.
Right, but we have our Philly fan just rain on our parade now.
Hello,
Mr. Picone.
So sorry it took so long.
You're good.
Jack Corrigan talks a lot.
That's okay.
Very nice guy. Very nice guy.
He was great. We were part of that meeting. We dipped out because we care so much about the walk-off. We did.
I know. I saw you guys get up. I was like, are we seriously at 12 already?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I wanted to stay, but the problem was that he was going around the room. And he was going to the other side, talking to them. I don't know at what point he was going to turn over to the other side of the room.
He eventually did turn over, but at the end he goes, we had a nice meeting with him, and he was talking about broadcasting and everything. And at the end he goes, all right, I have to go to my dentist appointment. I was like, how long have you been putting this off for? Like, he told me that he could go he said, I can go until noon. At noon, I'm done. I was like, all right, yeah. And then he just kept talking. And now it's all this, or he said I can go until noon. And they just kept talking. All right, so
we're talking Peralta, Mets. What
okay?
We finished
Bellinger. So listen, I really like this trade for them. I know they're giving away Tong and everything.
No Tong, Sprout,
not Tong.
You're good.
And I know Acuna's off the team now because of Robert.
Right.
And all of it kind of together, you're trading a lot of prospects away. But I think this is the team to beat right now. I mean, obviously the first base situation is still something that I'm a little worried about, but you can work around that. Like I think Jorge Polanco will work there.
Never played there.
He's never played there, but sometimes players can work around there. I mean, Harper never played there. Now he's solidified.
He's Bryce Harper. Though,
well, so. I will say if Polanco doesn't work out, then our backup option is Mark Vientos, and that doesn't put us.
That gets me going.
That doesn't put us in a good situation. So Vince, to your point, this better work out.
No, it better. But I mean, what? Tobias Myers is going to start in the pen.
That's an important piece, by the way. That kid's good.
That goes unnoticed in that deal, by the way.
It does go unnoticed. And I think you look at deals like the Mackenzie Gore deal that we saw earlier this week, where they 5 prospects for 1 player.
Crazy.
I mean, listen, the Mets traded a lot away, but you get at least 2 solidified players in this deal that I think will really work for them well. And now you have Freddy Peralta at the top of that rotation. I know you guys were talking about earlier how it's Freddy Peralta's 1 year. Like, he's got 1 year, and then it's over. But you don't think David Stearns would re-sign him to a big deal?
Well, here's what we sort of agreed on it, that
okay.
we obviously want it, but The problem is he's going to want a long-term deal. Part of the reason being the lockout, the pending lockout. He's going to want to get his money while he can get his money for a long period of time, and he's only 29 years old. And Stearns doesn't give out contracts longer than maybe even 4 years. He could put that to the side for this guy. He's a good pitcher. But and we talked about also Pat Ragazzo talking about how Freddy Peralta is open to an extension, who we're going to interview tomorrow on Zoom.
Very excited.
Exactly, and I'm sure we'll get some more info on that.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, put it this way, until I see the deal on the table, I'm not going to say that it is. And until the deal's on the table and signed, it's a 1-year rental. Like, that's what it is. So that's what worries me.
Okay. I get that. I just think, Freddy Peralta brings something that, not that the Mets haven't seen it in a while. I feel like McLean showed little spurts of it last year, but he's got dominance. Like, he's got dominance to another degree. I think the Mets were looking for that in Scherzer and Verlander. But this is a guy that is going to dominate. Like, he has the potential to really put up some great numbers. I don't think he's Cy Young numbers, but I think he can go out there and dice up a lineup. And this was the thing, like, Anthony, we were talking about this like a couple weeks ago. Like, my one problem with the Mets was their pitching. Mm-hmm. And I guess David Stearns read my story. Because when they signed Bo Bichette, I said, okay, who's pitching? Who's pitching? You can put out as many batters as you want. Who's pitching? And I think they figured it out. Obviously, the 3, 4, 5, potentially 6 is a little concerning just with Senga's injury problems. Can Peterson hold up? Is Clay Holmes going to have a good season? And is Sean Manaea going to stay healthy? But besides that, I mean, this is a really good rotation and a really good team. They might be the team that's going to put up a fight against. I think they're the only team that can put up a good fight against the Dodgers.
The only team. Really?
Who else would you think would be putting up a good fight?
Why not?
Padres.
But their question, they have so many questions. I can't promise you that everybody on that team is going to be on that team starter of the year.
I would still put the Brewers in the mix. I would.
I don't know. Listen, also, this is something that needs to be talked about. Like, which is worse for baseball? Kyle Tucker being paid a lot of money to go play for the Dodgers, or the Brewers, who were the best team in the National League last year, trading away their star pitcher like it's nothing and not building anything. Because that's, honestly, in my opinion, that's worse for baseball.
And nobody says anything. Like, everybody's going crazy about Kyle Tucker, including some of my Mets fan friends. And I was going crazy for a different reason, not because I wanted him. I was going crazy because I'm saying Dodgers are killing baseball. But you make a good point. The Brewers are in contention, and they give this guy away because they don't want to sign him. But that's also my worry is, yeah, we gave up for him, but are we going to sign him? That's my concern. And, I don't know.
What I was saying before you walked in, Vin, we were talking a lot about the Peralta deal to begin with, but I went on a little bit of a rant, so I want to bring it up to you since you missed it. Listen, I thought it was
give me the notes.
Well, let me say this: it revolves around Zoom. It revolves around Zoom.
We'll get there.
Like just the program.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Look, honestly, when Anthony and I we were going back and forth about it, that was me at like level 35% of being annoyed. Okay, so you don't want to see me at like the 90 to 100%.
Put the New York Knicks on, and Cat is fouling out. You'll see that.
But you know what? I'm gonna get there. All right, I'm annoyed. I am extremely annoyed. Okay.
Raising your voice?
Yes. No, I am. I'm going to tell you why.
Isn't this the second time you had this argument?
Yes. Yeah. But now this is worse because now the Philly fan is here too. So, okay.
Anthony knows that we switched sides.
Anyways, you know what today is? All right.
January 27th.
January 27th. That's great. Thank you. Today is the day that the Mets are introducing Freddy Peralta. Okay. They're doing it at 2:00 p.m. Do you know where they're doing the introduction?
It's like a while. It doesn't say Zoom.
It's on Zoom. Why? Okay. You traded 2 of your top 5 prospects. Okay. For a perennial ace who we haven't had since Jacob deGrom when we let him walk to Texas. Okay.
That's fair.
Although it's a 1-year deal, okay, you still introduce the guy in person at Citi Field because you did it with Bo Bichette, who, by the way, is technically on a 1-year deal because he can opt out right after the season's over. Okay. Why are we not introducing our ace, okay, for the first time in over 5 years? Why are we introducing him on Zoom? Can you give me a legitimate reason why we would do that.
I can give you a pretty legitimate reason.
I can't wait to hear this.
Well, he's on a 1-year deal. He probably doesn't think he's going to get re-signed because he knows David Stearns. I mean, you guys have had this conversation. His house is probably still, where it was before. He's probably not moving to New York. I mean, he has the prices. I just think that, what about Robert? Has he been introduced yet?
No, but I don't think they're gonna. That is more of a reason to be on Zoom than it is to.
But why is that?
Again, no, we're not. I'm not bashing Luis Robert, but again, with the.
I will.
No. Well, I know you will. We've talked about it. But again, a guy he's had injury problems. He's shown signs of being a very good player. He had that one great season. I think what was it, 2022 or 23?
23, 3 years ago.
Right, exactly. So again, in the past 2 to 3 years, he hasn't really proven himself to be like the guy that should get introduced at the stadium, in front of a full press and everything like of that nature. But a guy like Freddy Peralta, although it's a 1-year deal, the guy's coming off a career season, 17-6. I was talking about before, under 3 ERA, over 200 strikeouts. His WHIP is in the top half of the league. How do you not introduce him properly, even though it's a 1-year deal? It's still a player that's going to help you try to win the 2026 World Series. Why not do it?
I understand what you're saying. I realistically thinking, I genuinely think it's the house. He probably is just not home. Also, I can't. I'm not gonna look up his address, but I'm pretty sure if he's where is he from?
I don't know, but the last thing I saw about him was he was working out with Luis Severino. Okay, former Met, by the way, too.
So he's probably in Sacramento.
Is that where?
Well, that's where Severino.
No, he's probably in Milwaukee. He's been in Milwaukee his whole career.
But I don't know where he lives. Where's his off season?
Well,
wait. Let me check something really quick with you.
You could probably find it.
I just want to check something. All right.
See, when you let Justin get going, this is what
listen,
you invite.
I don't get listen. I don't get hot too often when it comes to talking about the Mets, but this actually ticked me off. It really did. It's a bad look.
Let me just. I'm gonna tell you something right now, and I if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I apologize. Also, I'm on Baseball Reference right now, and I just see a little notification at the bottom. The Mets and Brewers are in discussion about right-hander Freddy Peralta, according to reports from Pat Ragazzo.
Go, my guy.
I'm very excited. You have Anthony's guy. He's coming tomorrow because of Anthony. Yeah, whatever happens tomorrow, you got to give credit to Anthony Walsh. He is the man of the hour.
Shout out, Mr. Walsh.
All right, I'm going to tell you something really quickly, and then did you guys get to talk about Hall of Fame yet?
No.
I got to rant. All right, my last thing. Freddy Peralta and Luis Severino are probably practicing together. Wait, in the Dominican Republic right now.
Okay. I don't think it costs too much money for Steve Cohen to fly him out to Queens.
Out of all the things that the Mets have done, this is what gets you going.
Again,
they traded for a guy that hit 230 last year for a top.
Oh no, he likes that. He likes Luis Robert.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Yeah. That's my thing. I think he's been playing down the last couple of years. He won't run out a ground ball in the infield. So I think he's just waiting to play on a good team.
That's good too. Yeah, I like that.
He's not. I think he's waiting to play on a good team. I think you want to know who he gives off vibes of? He gives off vibes of Manny Ramirez, Yoenis Cespedes kind of vibes.
But not as good.
But
when Cespedes came over,
he
was a juggernaut. No. He was a juggernaut for them.
Yeah, exactly. But so was Robert.
We can't say that yet because he hasn't played for the Mets.
But he played for the White Sox. Well, he was good for the White Sox.
That's not something to be too proud of.
But this one, he's only gonna play when there's a good team around him.
Which is what I said to you, Anthony.
Well, wait, okay.
I wish I was here the entire show today.
Oh, yeah,
okay. You're getting an insight into our dorm room right now. This is what we talk about 11 o'clock at night. All right. Luis Robert, however you pronounce it.
I think it's Robert.
Robert. Okay. Okay. This guy is Timu version of Yoenis Cespedes. He's not good. He stinks.
That's fair.
He's Yoenis Cespedes with all the off-field stuff, but none of the talent. That's my problem. And he had 2023. You mentioned that. That's well and good. And he's a good defender. I will say that. I like that. He's a good defender. But the guy has proved nothing with the bat. In 2023, he had a good season with the bat, 100%. Take that away, he's one of the worst hitters in baseball. Literally one of the worst hitters in baseball. And that's not arguable.
Yeah, I agree with you. He hasn't been great. He's had injury history. There's no...
That too, yeah.
There's no disputing that. But again, I have to agree with Vin. This is for the first time he's going to a team that's coming into the season with World Series aspirations. All right, when he was in 2023 having a great season with the White Sox, I think that season they made the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or,
23, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, but coming into that season, I don't think on paper they were like, oh, we're gonna come out of the what is it, the AL Central that they're in, or
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So, like, they weren't thinking that. Now, for the first time, Robert is coming to a team that is filled with all-star caliber players. Okay, you got probably 2 Hall of Famers in that lineup in Soto and Lindor. I mean, like, he's coming to a team now with those aspirations. I think it's only going to elevate him and give him more confidence. But yeah, there's a lot of injury concerns with him. There's no other way to say it. But you can't just automatically say like, oh my gosh, like this guy he's gonna be horrible and this and that. You got to wait and see what he does on the field before you say that.
I didn't say he's automatically going to be horrible. What I'm saying is I'm going off of what he's done in his career, just as we do with every other player we talk about on here. And I can't. And
Get
this
with
is
the program.
This is the other thing. Exactly. You just got to focus. Get your focus off of Zoom.
But I'm sticking with Zoom all day, every day. It's happening.
But the other thing that upsets me with the Luis Robert thing is people saying, it's low risk, high reward. Okay. It's low risk, high reward in terms of what you gave up. It's not low risk, high reward if the guy's in center field hitting 180 and in our lineup doing absolutely nothing in a season where we're supposed to be winning a World Series or at least getting to one, and he's doing nothing to accomplish that. That's high risk. If the guy's not producing, that's high risk to our team being good.
All right, I'll do you one better. Who was our center fielder 2 years ago when we made it to the NLCS?
Tyrone Taylor.
Okay.
And what happened in that NLCS? We lost.
Okay, we lost. But again, no. Okay, but my point is what I'm trying to say is, would you rather have Tyrone Taylor out in center field, who, by the way, I mean, they're practically the same hitter when it comes to average and all that stuff.
Robert's actually better. I'll give you Robert. He's better than him.
Right,
sure.
Which is true.
Yes.
But again, going into that season with Taylor being the center fielder, like you're going in thinking like, oh, automatically, like this guy's hitting 180 because that's what he proved with the team, a year before that as well. You know what I mean? So with this guy coming in for the first time with a new club, you can't just automatically like assume like, oh, this guy's going to be a 180 hitter. He's not going to play 100 games. You can't go into that like feeling that way. You have to give the guy a chance to prove himself. And as it stands right now, I probably would agree with you. Like, I'm not expecting him to have a 35 home run season, 85 RBIs.
He doesn't need to have that.
He doesn't. I'm not going into the season thinking that. I don't want you to, get me wrong there. But I will say, given what the Mets did with a guy like Tyrone Taylor playing practically every single day and being able to get to that point, and now you replace him with a guy like Luis Robert, who has proven that he has the capability to be a great offensive player in a good lineup, you got to give the guy a chance. That's
honestly, I think they have totally 2 different roles. Like they're both playing center field, but I think they're 2 different roles. And this might be just like me talking into the world or to a wall or whatever. Like if I'm the Mets right now, I feel like the only thing that we've lost this year that we didn't have last year was power. Like you just lose Alonso, so now you kind of lose power. I would be happy if Robert hits, I don't know, 200, but with like 30 home runs.
Well, that's going to be hard to do, though. You're only in 200.
I was in like the 20 to 25.
Schwarber hit 40, and he hit 198.
Well, yeah, but it's Kyle Schwarber. He's not going to be Kyle Schwarber. Like,
but give me like 30 and like a 250, 210 average. I'll take that. That's fine by me. That's all the Mets need, I think. Because they don't need another guy to hit for average. I think they have the right producers to do that. They don't need a guy that I don't know, necessarily needs to drive in big runs in clutch situations, because they have tons of players that can do that in these situations. And you do need good defense, which I think he kind of lacks, but you have it kind of around him, right? Who's playing left and right?
Bench and left, Soto and right, as it stands.
Okay, so maybe not the best defense. But nonetheless, I mean, you have like, there's prospects out there. There's prospects. All right.
Do you want to do your Hall of Fame?
Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to talk about just a little bit. All right. So 2 Hall of Famers got inducted into the Hall of Fame this last week, and it's Andrew Jones, who had played 17 years, bounced around some teams towards the end, but mostly a Brave. And towards the end, he was more of a Yankee. I played 2 years for the Yankees, but mostly a Brave. 1996 to 2007. His prime, 1998 to 2007. And then Carlos Beltran, a handful of teams. I mean, he's a immaculate grid user for sure. Astros his final year. And looking at the big picture, I'm not going to lie. At first, I was like, why would we induct Andrew Jones? That just doesn't make sense to me. But looking a little bit deeper into it, I mean, Gold Glove, 10-time Gold Glove winner, 10-time in a row Gold Glove winner, played consistently through 1998 to 2007. The only thing that bothers me is he only had one top 5 MVP finish. I think the standards for Baseball Hall of Fame has been lowered so much, even just since we started this show. They are so low. My only thing is, it's a battle between longevity. Beltran played 20 years, and he had 430 home runs with 2,700 hits. I think that's fair. And then it's a battle between the glove. I mean, Andrew Jones had about 9 solid years. 9 solid years. And then after that, he never produced again. He had, from 2007 to 1998, which is 9 years. He had 100 hits each season. Never had 200 hits, but he had 100. After that, he never even came close. The most he had was in 2010 with the White Sox, and he was 33. I don't know. Is he a Hall of Famer?
He was consistently one of the best center fielders in the game. So and he wasn't a horrible hitter.
I think he is a Hall of Famer.
I'm not opposed to it.
Beltran?
Well, okay. Beltran's definitely a Hall of Famer, but I will give you a quick rant about that.
Oh.
He's a Hall of Famer in terms of how he played, but we're opening up the gates now to cheaters. Let's be real here. Carlos Beltran cheated the game. He didn't take steroids, but he was the ringleader of that sign stealing scandal. He was the veteran on that team. The guys that have talked publicly about it have talked about how Beltran, that was a guy that they trusted in that because they knew he's been in the league for like 17 years at that point or whatever it was.
19 years.
19 years at that point. And he was a guy that people looked as almost like a coach on the team. And he was a big part of that. So if we're opening up the floodgates to the cheaters, I don't know what that says. I mean, I'm not for Barry Bonds or Clemens or any of those guys, Andy Pettitte, being in the Hall of Fame, but how could I look them in the face now and say the Hall of Fame is for only the best of the best, only the most moral of the moral when I have Carlos Beltran in there who cheated the game? And by the way, if you talk to players about it, they would dislike the sign stealing more than they dislike the steroids. Because a lot of them, by the way, more take steroids than they do sign stealing. And if you know a pitch is coming, that's a bigger advantage than taking steroids. So I would say if 100% he's a Hall of Famer by playing, and he was a great Met too. I'm no problem with him. But if you're opening up the floodgates to cheaters, that's where it gets a little, the water gets a little, like what are we doing here?
No, I agree with you. It's really a toss up. I mean, obviously you say the same thing about the steroids with Barry Bonds. Like there's a reason why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
But now now how we could say that? How could we say well cheaters aren't allowed when Beltran's?
No, I agree with you. It's It really is a toss-up. If I were to be honest with you, I still think Barry Bonds, he's a Hall of Famer, so the fact that no, you're not.
But the difference between them is Beltran cheated his final year. And that's what hurts so much. I mean, imagine if he gets traded from New York. He was on the Yankees. He gets traded to Texas. He, finishes out his season in 2016, calls it. That's it.
He'd be a surefire Hall of Famer, no problem.
He'd be such an easy Hall of Famer to say. You wouldn't even have to go through any of this. But instead, I mean, like, he did cheat. He did cheat. Yeah. And you can't say that, oh, well, it was his last. Like, he was the ringleader. Like, people hate Jose Altuve. People hate Alex Bregman, George Springer, Carlos Correa because of Carlos Beltran's idea. Like that, It's not like you can't say it any other way. And that's what hurts him so much. I don't know what really pushed him over the edge. I think, he was on that Texas team. I was looking back at it. He was on the Texas team that got beat up in the 2016 DS. But they won 95 games. Like they finished first in the AL West, and then he goes down like that. I think something must have ticked in him. It was like, we should have been so much better. And we got, messed up by this final team.
He wanted to finish his career winning a World Series.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, but it doesn't justify what he did by any means.
I think that what's going to hurt the worst is they're going to put on the plaque like he's a 2017 World Series champion. There will be no asterisks next to it, nothing. Because I know the Hall of Fame. They're not going to do that.
But with that now being set in stone, like the bigger question now, which it's come up in reports and revolving Carlos Beltran, is what hat or what cap, I should say, he's going to wear on the plaque. According to him, he went on MLB Network, right before he was announced, right after he was announced. He's like, I don't know if I'm going to go in wearing a Mets hat or a Royals hat. But in the past, he would say, always if I got into the Hall of Fame, chances are I would put the Mets cap on. But I was interested to hear like what you guys think as far as which cap you think he should wear going in.
I say he should be a Met. It's not totally up to him though, so it's up to like people at the Hall of Fame, and he has input, but he's not the final say.
Mm-hmm.
But he has his best numbers with the Mets. Obviously, the final taste he left in the mouth in 2006 for postseason was not very great. Staring at the Adam Wainwright curveball, which was great. The only postseason experience he had with the Mets was that year, so that kind of like, at least for some Mets fans, they look at him in a negative light, but that's not fair. I mean, he had a great career with the Mets. He was, the best center fielder in Mets history. He's one of the best center fielders in baseball history. For when he was in his prime, people forget when he was young, he was a great center fielder. Obviously, he aged out. He had problems with his legs, and into the 2010s, he wasn't so great, and he barely played there. But from his prime in the late 90s to the early mid 2000s, he was a great center fielder, and that was in large part with the Mets. So if it were up to me, I don't think it's even close. I would put it at the Mets. But if it's not the Mets, it's going to be the Royals. There's really no other. He's not going to be a Yankee. He's not going to be a Cardinal. It'll be either the Mets or the Royals.
What do you
maybe
think?
He'll go in as a Texas Ranger.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a Met. There's one Hall of Famer, I don't know who it is, that has nothing on their cap. Like didn't put it. Halladay, Roy Halladay died, but he doesn't have Blue Jays or Phillies on his cap. Like he has nothing. I think Beltran's gonna make a choice, but I think it would be pretty cool. Like if he said, I'm not gonna wear any hat. I think he'll go Mets though, because that was the best time of his career. He had his highest points with them.
It's up to the Hall of Fame brass, I guess. Though they're
definitely going to say. But the thing is, like he was a one-time All-Star for the Royals and got traded that same year.
Rookie of the Year with them, though.
He was, but I mean, he came in top 4 in MVP voting for the Mets. I don't know. I'm going to say that. I think the bigger question is how does this open the floodgates for other cheaters? Because, I mean, reports say that Clemens only took steroids at the end of his career so he can be longevity.
Have longevity.
Thank you. And that's why now who's to say he's not going to go in the Hall of Fame?
That's what I hate. It's the worst.
It is the worst because it's two different things. I mean, Beltran affected an entire team, and that which messes up the entire team. And Clemens only messed up himself. I think that's the hardest part. And like years ago when we talked to Jack Cuss, he was like everybody was doing it. Like pitchers were doing it because hitters were doing it, and hitters were doing it because pitchers were doing it. Just like everybody.
And you don't know what pitch is coming, which is even more bigger advantage.
By the way, Jack Cuss, nicest guy in the world, but my goodness, that guy loved the steroids talk. Like I remember, we were walking into it, we were like, all right, let's just try to keep this away from steroids as much as we can. And Anthony asked one question, and it was like. He was like, I don't think they did anything wrong. I thought they were great people. And I was like, all right, Jack, calm down. Even freshman Vincent was like, all right, interesting talk. That's my take. But my only thing is who's in the Hall of Fame now? Like who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? And in all honesty, what is the criteria now? What is the criteria for being a Hall of Fame?
It's not clear.
Is it you need to have one thing, or do you need to have two things? Because I mean, Andrew Jones didn't have 2,000 hits, which I feel like is the first criteria for getting in. But he did have 10 Gold Gloves. So is he kind of on that Ozzie Smith there? I don't even know if Ozzie had. Let's see, Ozzie Smith.
That's the problem though. Is
Ozzie Smith had 2,400.
Where do we draw the line in terms of you're an elite defender, but you maybe weren't the best hitter? How do we Andrew Jones is in now? He wasn't the greatest hitter in the world, but he was a great a great outfielder. So. I don't know. There's no clear answer to me, and that's the problem. It used to be a clear answer. You were the best of the best, and you're in. And you didn't cheat, and you're in. Now we're letting cheaters in, and we're letting guys that maybe were elite defensively, but not elite offensively in. So it's not clear, and that stinks.
It just isn't. And I think that's the worst part. Because if there was just a little bit more criteria to all right, you need to have these 3 aspects, and then once you're there, then we see if you should still be voted in. I think that would be so much easier, but it would never be that way. This year would have nobody, besides Beltran, nobody would have been inducted this year.
Put it this way, and the last topic before we go to leave because we're done in a couple minutes. But Jacob deGrom, Is he a Hall of Famer now? 'Cause
Exactly.
He meets that criteria.
Mhm.
He was great for a period of time, then got hurt, and he's a good year last year. But still, his prime was a certain period of time, probably like 6, 7, 8 years, and they're great. But then he got hurt, and he never won the World. Well, he won the World Series now, but he never won the World Series. Was really an active participant in it, and was the ace of the team. I don't know. And now in today's Hall of Fame, he is, but in yesterday's Hall of Fame, he wasn't. And I think he's one of those guys that's the Hall of Very Good. I love Jacob deGrom. He should be a Met Hall of Famer. But if he goes down and has another 5 years of greatness, okay, different conversation. But we sit here now, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't.
Well,
Too many injuries.
He's coming off a great season with Texas, so if he
Very good, yeah.
if he keeps doing that and having average numbers like he's capable of doing, then I don't know.
I think
I really don't know.
I don't think he does. Not that he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, this guy was the best of the best, but his numbers just look too similar to somebody that would get into the Hall of Fame now. Like, he had 2014 to 2021, like 7 years of greatness. They'll throw him in there. And that last year, I mean, you could kind of count it. Like, he had 15 starts.
Yeah, 2021, he had the greatest start to a season ever, and then he got hurt a bunch of times and never, But like, if we're going to talk about in terms of today's standard, he's in. But I think there's something to be said about longevity, and I think that's something like a guy that pitches 20 years or 15 years at an elite level almost every year of that career. He shouldn't be on the same level as a guy that was elite for 7 years and then got hurt for the rest of his career. Now, he could change that like Justin just said with Texas, but I don't know. I think the Hall of Fame has muddled the waters now, and that's a shame. But that's done it for us for the Walkoff here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Thanks for listening. We're on same time, same place next week.